Welcome back on deynonmod. Today I want to propose you a video about the unboxing review about the White Dwarf issue 511 of April 2025 released by the Games Workshop. Here we can call this really a Warhammer 40k centric, and you can find the theme from the cover style that it's about Fulgrim and the Emperors of Children, and I think that it's quite fair because they never had a codex that it's been released in April, so I think that it's really quite fair to have this quite monographic in some way White Dwarf. So okay, so we go to see about the inserts that we can find. Here we have these that are related about Kill Team, and okay, we have this one, and here we have the classical two missions that are added, one related about Warhammer 40k and this that it's about Age of Sigmar. The one related about Age of Sigmar, I want to remember you that it's one that it's come from the 2022, so it's a older mission that has been renewed and I quite like. Moreover, remember that since quite the White Dwarfs, we can find that these ones are not having anymore a correspondent inside, so you can't have this if you remove a copy that you have always. So pay attention, eventually you can try to make a photocopy or so on, so it's much better in my opinion instead of take them off. Still, I love that there are at the back of the White Dwarf, so I don't have problems to read and it's much better. You have eventually, remember, the alternative cover that you can gain making the subscription to the White Dwarf, so without any writing. So you have the same cover that you have here, but free of anything. So if you want to collect them, it can be quite interesting. Sincerely, I'm not interested about, but it could be an option. Moreover, remember that you can save some money eventually, so it's really quite nice. So let's start to see about the contents. Here the introduction about the White Dwarf. Here the summary of the contents inside the White Dwarf. As you can see, the most part of it are related about Warhammer 40k. Here the insert that we've seen before. Then we can flip and we can find the main list of the readers to the team of the White Dwarf. As usual, I suggest you to pay attention about such images, also the text, but more the images, because you can find about painting, idea for conversion, basing, and so on. So I think that it's always quite nice. It can give you quite tips to personalize your own armies, and I think that it's quite intriguing in that way. So it would be nice, in my opinion. I suggest you eventually to dedicate some time. For example, here we can see this that it's a sort of diorama, but it can be used also as a way to store the models, but also to play with. So it's always quite nice, I think, and it's really quite intriguing. So you can have quite a lot of inspirational, in my opinion. Then we had this that it's about Age of Sigmar in this case, and we had the second part of the Flashpoint Gnashka that started with the previous White Dwarf, and it's related about the Orcs. In this case, we have Badak that we know in the previous White Dwarf that moves back from Shaish, that is stayed there for a lot of time, and it was original itself from Gur, and it comes back to Gur because there is Godrak that it's ascent, and so try to gain back a lot of power. And it's quite nice because we can see the voids of these Orcs along some planes of Gur that are not anymore animated as usual, and it's really quite strange. And we can find that it's related about Lord Vengorian, and this is going to even include, as we can see in the next White Dwarf, I think, Laukava itself. So it's really quite intriguing to have. It's really a nice story. Here we have also a little story that it's about the Lord Vengorian that talk themselves. So it's quite intriguing. It has a lot of quite potential. Here we have about the little campaign that you can find here. Sincerely, I hope that in the future we'll see much more about such things, because we have seen about the Iron Suns Army of Renown that we can create, that it's legend, okay? But it's a way to play with and amplify the way that the Battle of the Suns offers. So it would be quite nice if such things will become official, I think. And then we move to Warhammer 40k. And here we have a description about Slaanesh, so its background and so on. It's really quite a lot of what we can see and so on. The images are always amazing ones with this Avatar of Cain. It's really quite amazing one that goes against here the Great Demon of Slaanesh. Okay. And then we move from Slaanesh itself to the Emperor's Children. So the main theme, remember that the cover is related about them, and there is also the codex. So a lot of background for the ones that doesn't know too much about the Emperor's Children. It can be really quite a lot intriguing. So I suggest you eventually to have quite a lot of fun reading, because there are quite a lot of information, nearly a lot more to see, and the images are always amazing. So I suggest always to read. And then we have also the talking about Fulgrim that received the demonic miniature about. So it's really quite nice to know better about him, and there are a lot of things to know so it's really quite nice. And here we have this, that it's a way to know better about the background, because we have also the other images related, but also the way that they made such miniatures, so the decision that were behind. And I think that it's really quite nice, because you can see a lot of details on this. It's an amazing miniature. Maybe my second favorite. I still prefer the Mortarion one as the demonic, the great demon one. So it's quite nice and really quite amazing. I like such miniature. Okay, it recalls me quite a lot about the Morati miniature, but it's a different vibe anyway. So they're really both quite amazing one. Then we have about painting the Noise Marines. That could be a painting guide that is quite useful for the ones that want to play with them. Then we have this, that it's related about the combat pattern, again about the Emperor's Children. So a bit of background too, and then the part about the rules themselves. So the ones that want to play with these, I think that will have quite a lot of fun, because there is everything related, and really tons of material for the ones that are interesting. Then the boarding pattern, again about the Emperor's Children. So really lot of things related. And then the Battlereport with these Emperor's Children. So it's really quite nice against the Aeldari, because they're both associated to Slaanesh. We've seen the introduction about Slaanesh. These were there technically, so it's really quite intriguing. As usually, I suggest you eventually to try to read such type of Battlereport, because it's a way to know one of the armies that maybe you don't play usually, the way that it's the official way to play, or simply you don't play the Warhammer 40k, the combat pattern, or so on. And with this could be a way, maybe with this boarding one, to try to play or to see how it's played, and so maybe you are interested then. It can be an option, so eventually try, or see about the images here, because anyway it's way eventually to create your own diorama that could be possibly referring about such type of meeting or so on. It's something that you could use as a referral trace, so I think that it's quite nice. And then we have the second part of the aspect of war. This started with the previous White Dwarf again, and here it's a way to add rules. They are not official rules, so it's optional ones. Still, it's a way that it improves the, I can say, the rules that maybe we see in the future. Sincerely, I don't like too much how it's been developed in the Warhammer 40k actually, so I'm not interested about this, but still it's an option if you want to try them. It's still something that I suggest you. And then here, it's the second part of an article that, again, we started with the previous White Dwarf, so with March, and here, so we have about the Aeldari, another part of the Codex Aeldari explained, so the various concepts and so on, and really, the various units, I can see that, I think that this Aeldari has been the first one to have two White Dwarf to having such notes, but okay, they have, in the time, not too many, I can say, renewals, and this it's a complete renewal than of all the miniatures, so I think that it's okay that there is a sort of summary about all the things that are available, so nice, and you can know much better about the army itself eventually. So okay, and again, a lot of Warhammer 40k as you've seen, really, because all related in this case about Slaanesh, because Aeldari in some way are the cause of Slaanesh itself, or about the Emperor's Children, so it's really quite intriguing one. And then we had this, that it's about the reality of the creation of the Codex Aeldari. So again, quite a lot of things, and there are tons of information, so I suggest you to read, even if you are not quite interested about the Aeldari themselves. I think that knowing how they create the codices, it's a good way to understand better. Then we had this, that it's a novel about the Black Library, so it's quite fun to read. As usual, I suggest you eventually to try, because it's a way maybe to know an army that you haven't never known, maybe a theme, because maybe you read mainly about Age of Sigmar, Warhammer Fantasy, or so on, and this is a way to know better about another environment, or for example to know a better author that you haven't known before, or that it writes about something that you never written before. So it's always quite nice to develop about such options. So it's nice, and there are really quite a lot of pages, and I really appreciate about this. Then go about the bunker as usual, and here it's moved and become a sort of incentive to make you try, play, and so on, collect. And here about kill team in this way, so they make you understand how they play about this, develop the game. And about developing the game, they added again new rules. I don't like to play kill team. I think that it's too messy, in my opinion, more because the most part of the new things are in the White Dwarf that should say, okay, but you buy them from the beginning, so what's the problem? It's the part that essentially it's a messy then to understand, okay, but if I go to play with someone, it has read about the things that I'm going to play or so on, or had to explain everything together. And sincerely, I don't like too much, okay? It's simply my opinion, but still it's something that it's a good game eventually, so it's an option. It's really quite intriguing, but I love anyway the miniatures. The miniatures are amazing ones. And then we have another way to have a mini list, but it's about the satellite uplink, where you can see some of the clubs and so on that are related about Games Workshop, that make you see about some of the models or armies. For example, we had this that it's Arcan, but it's a modified Arcan because it's not riding, and it changed about the legs. These legs could be coming from one of the Mortisans of the Reapers, because it's really quite similar, but could be also eventually use something similar that it's it about the Night Hunt. Anyway, these are technically from the Mortisan of the Reaper, anyway. So it's really quite intriguing in this case, so nice. But we can see about the colors, the basing. It's up to you decide if you're interested about, but there are quite a lot of things that could be really quite intriguing in my opinion, because you can see different combination, different option. It's a way to enlarge your way to think, to see, and so on, so quite nice. Here we can see what we see in the future White Dwarfs. Here, as we've seen, the inserts, here the back, and then finally we have the back cover. And here again we can see about the Battlereport that we've seen, and also the main theme about the Warhammer 40k and about this White Dwarf. So the Emperor's Children and the Aeldari. So to say about such White Dwarf, I think that it's not bad, but you have to understand what it's referring about, because it's mainly themed about Warhammer 40k, and about Warhammer 40k mainly related about the Emperor's Children and the Aeldari. It's really quite nice. If you're interested about the Aeldari, you have tons of things related about the codex and how it's going to be that codex, so it's really quite interesting how it's being crafted. From the Emperor Children part, you have tons of options, because you have the background related about Slaanesh, the Emperor Children, fulfilling themselves. You have the rules to play the combat battle, the boarding action, also the Battlereport that it's related about the Emperor Children and the Aeldari. So it's really quite mainly theme about Slaanesh, this, so really quite nice. Instead about Age of Sigmar, we have seen that it has simply a part about the Flashpoint Gnashka. So nice. I'm quite interested about, but really quite small. Anyway, we can see really that from the summary, the most part it's about Warhammer 40k. So it's really quite a sort of monothematic part. But remember that the Emperor's Children is the first time that it received a codex. So it's really quite okay to have a special focus about them. Also to make you know that there are, so that you can then to collect a new army. In my opinion, it's really quite nice, and the models are amazing, we have seen. So it's nice, in my opinion. Mainly related about Warhammer 40k, so you could appreciate or not. So it's based on what you prefer. In my opinion, it's really quite nice, anyway, even if you're not interested, because it's really quite a good information about different armies, and so you can expand your knowledge, so I appreciate it. But I can understand you that you are not interested about, maybe because or you play other faction of Warhammer 40k, or you prefer some more data about a general campaign, or you prefer more data about Age of Sigmar or Old World. So I can understand that you can prefer other White Dwarfs, but still, anyway, it's good quality. Simply, I can say that it filmed more strictly about few things. Okay, so write in the comment if you like such type of focused White Dwarf, or you prefer something more general with a bit focus eventually on a certain tip or so on. Would be quite nice to discuss about what can be improved. So I think that it's a nice conversation that could be generated. At least for now, only for the web. I decided to put in description the link about my wish list for Amazon if you are interested about making me a gift about. I know it's the first time that I do, so I hope that it works. Anyway, it's something that it's a try. Don't feel that you have to do or so on. It's simply something that if you want to cooperate with me to give me some things that maybe I use then as a review or so on, it could be useful, or that can be useful also for the channel. So eventually you have a thing that you can share with. So from deynonmod it's everything. I invite you to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell so to receive notification about new video, to comment under here about this video, or if you want to suggest me new videos. So I hope to see you again to the next time.